adaptations, and the one man who ties it all together and make a paper that got me into grad school. So, with that, this is The Powerful Play Goes On, Shakespearean Influence in Modern Pop Culture. And if you didn't look at those slides and immediately think of The Lion King, you're lying to yourself, because here we go. The first thing I really want to talk about is something you probably learned in 9th grade, 10th grade, whenever you read Hamlet for the first time, and then you felt really, really cool and edgy because you know that there are parallels between Hamlet and The Lion King. So here we have To Be a Lion or Not to Be, Hamlet and The Lion King. And if you know either Hamlet or The Lion King, you know what's about to go down. We have Mufasa, who's old King Hamlet, his son Simba, Prince Hamlet, and his evil brother Scar, who's Claudius. Claudius kills Mufasa, King Hamlet, however you want to look at it, blames his son, he runs away, all looks to be lost until the ghost of his father returns and reminds him to remember who you are my son. Or adieu, 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 remember me, depending on which version you want to look at. So, inspired, our Simba Hamlet returns to take his rightful place. And because this is Shakespeare, Hamlet actually dies, and because this is Disney, Simba lives because we can only kill parents in Disney movies. And this is actually really important because Simba plays a big role in the sequel, where we can borrow more Shakespeare. And now we're going to touch real quick on the Lion, the Moor, and the star-crossed lovers in The Lion King 2. So, for reference, because not everybody in this room had children born in the 90s and had to watch this on repeat during car rides, we have Kiara and Kovu. Kiara is the daughter of Simba and Nala. Kovu is the son of Zira. Zira and the followers of Scar from the first movie kind of run off, start their own pride, outside sect. Basically, their entire goal in life is to undermine Simba's authority. So naturally, these two fall in love, because what else would happen? But they're not supposed to. And that sounds an awful lot like this one Shakespearean play about these feuding families and two teenagers who shouldn't be in love, Romeo and Juliet, and maybe the worst adaptation. I pulled that on purpose. But they're not supposed to be in love either. But again, because it's Disney, Kiara and Kovu fall in love, they convince their families that everything's okay, they reunite, Zira dies. What did I say about killing parents? And that's not the case in Shakespeare, because they die, and we're not really sure where their families stand at the end of that, but oh well, they're dead. Now, that's pretty straightforward. That's the plot. We've seen it in Hamlet and Lion King. We've seen it in Lion King 2 with Romeo and Juliet. But now I want to connect a warm and fuzzy children's movie to Shakespeare's bloodiest tragedy, Titus Andronicus. Here we have Zira and little baby Kovu, and Aaron and his son. And what's very interesting I found here, and it's much less obvious, it's not a plot point. There's one line that I was sitting in the middle of Dr. DiBiase's class, and we read it, and I was like, why am I thinking about The Lion King now? So then I had to go watch it. But in Zira's lullaby, she tells Kovu, one day when you're big and strong, you will be a king. Which is really, really similar to what Aaron tells his son. He says, I'll read it off the screen. I'll make you feed on berries and roots, and feed on curds and whey, and suck the goat, and cabin in a cave and bring you up to be a warrior and command a camp. So we've got these two characters who are the villains of their respective artworks. And they have this amazingly interesting, we'll put it that way, because it's not a good relationship, but these two care about their children more than they care about anything else, it seems. And so this nurturing side is very uncharacteristic for them, but it plays such a big role. And that's interesting to me, because we expect that nowadays from literature. We expect the bad guy to have a heart of gold. But for Shakespeare, this was a really big deal, because even in the play, they make a point to mention that Aaron is a Moor. He is black. Everybody else is white. And so we have somebody who is very overtly different, who now has all the caring and compassion of a normal human being, or a lion, depending on what we're looking at. Then we have Zira and Kovu, or part of Kovu, that's nice. And then we have Kiara and Simba. And if we look, Kovu and Zira have a lot of dark colorations, very similar to how Aaron has dark skin, whereas the other lions are a lighter coloration. So I'm not saying that the animators at Disney were like, hey guys, did you read Titus Andronicus in college? Let's make them dark. I'm saying that maybe Shakespeare was onto something with this outsider, otherness, being overtly different. And that's something we've internalized as a culture. We've internalized that, oh, the bad guy is different. And so they're just kind of naturally correlated as not so much an, ooh, hey, maybe wouldn't it be a cool idea if we did this? It's a pretty big deal. It's pretty important, and I think it's a testament to the staying power of Shakespeare and his plays and his understanding of human psychology. But now we're going to move on to the cultural phenomenon that is Harry Potter. So here we have witches, ghosts, and prophecies in Macbeth and Harry Potter. And I apologize for saying Macbeth. But first off, I would like to point out that J.K. Rowling has admitted Macbeth is one of her favorite Shakespeare plays. So look out for it. But it's not going to be the same straightforward word for word that you see because she's smart, she's well-read, she has a degree in classic literature. So let's see what she does with it. I'm going to start out with the obvious one, or at least it's obvious to me who's been immersed in Harry Potter since she could read. But in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, this is the 4th book, the infamous graveyard scene where Voldemort and Harry face off. He's just come back from this weird fetal, not death, but still death. And the first thing they do is realize, oh, our wands connect and do some really scary magic, which brings back the ghosts of the people Voldemort has killed, including Harry's parents. Which reads a lot like Macbeth Act 4, Scene 1, where the same thing happens. Everyone that Macbeth has had a hand in their death, their ghosts come back, and it really freaks them out. But it goes deeper than that, because this is a series, and J.K. Rowling isn't known for doing everything in one book. So Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix centers all around this prophecy. This prophecy, when we ultimately learn it, it goes in parts. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. Really spooky. J.K. Rowling said that it is the Macbeth idea. If Macbeth hadn't met the witches, would he have killed Duncan? Would any of it have happened? Is it fated, or did he make it happen? I believe he made it happen. And that's what she does with Voldemort. Voldemort's ambition in life is to take over the world, to be the top, kind of how Macbeth wants to be the king, make the prophecy come true. So by hunting Harry and his family down, Voldemort makes this happen. If he had just let it be, and maybe like tried to build an army or a defensive tactic, maybe baby Harry wouldn't have had the power of love to destroy him in the end. But Voldemort's also pretty arrogant and not known for thinking things through. So, thankfully, spoiler alert, Harry does win. And like we know, Macbeth loses. So, and then just a fun fact, because I can't get enough of this. This is the band that plays at the Yule Ball at the end of Goblet of Fire. They're called the Weird Sisters, which is exactly how the witches in Macbeth refer to themselves. So that's J.K. Rowling's little Easter egg for all of her Shakespeare enthusiasts. And now we're going to talk a little bit about making love, or I guess fake love. Actually, we're going to talk about love potions, because Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, as if nothing else could possibly go wrong. There's a wizarding war on the horizon. Voldemort is back. Harry's just learning about Horcruxes, and oh yeah, they're all 16. So let's introduce them to love potions. That's a good idea. But it's okay, because Professor Slughorn kindly qualifies it with, Amortentia doesn't really create love, of course. It's impossible to manufacture or imitate love. No, this will simply create a powerful infatuation or obsession. Okay, fair enough. Sounds like typical 16-year-olds anyway. So here we have Harry's future Mrs. Ginny and Hermione looking at some Amortentia, which sounds, this whole love potion thing really just reminds me of A Midsummer Night's Dream, when Oberon tells Puck that the juice of this flower on sleeping eyelids laid will make a man or woman madly dote upon the next live creature that it sees. So, okay. And I would like to point out real quick that the set designers might have been thinking the same thing, because the display is big pink flowers. So, it's not a new concept. And we also know that everyone falls in love with the wrong person. That is what you think of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Ginny and Dean don't end up together. That's Harry and Ginny. And then there's Romilda Vane, who spikes some cauldron cakes with love potion, meant for Harry, but Ron ends up eating it, and Ron falls in love with Romilda, which basically makes Romilda bottom. And we're not, and none of those people are supposed to be together. It's Ron and Hermione. And it all ends happily ever after for once, because this is a comedy, not a tragedy. Deep breaths, I got that all straight. And so we see that Shakespeare died in 1616, but we're still pulling his themes, his ideas, his concepts and understanding of like humanity into things from the 90s, into books from the 2000s. And for me, it's because he did have such an understanding. He did know what he was writing about. Maybe if he didn't consciously think it, he understood how people acted and that people were people and lions are lions, and maybe all wizards aren't bad, or maybe they all are, at least a little. Maybe there's a little bit of everything in everyone, and that's something that we see today in what we do. That's something we see in ourselves. That's something we see in our classmates and our students and our teachers. And that's why I think Shakespeare's hung around for so long. Not because we're forced to read it in English class, but because when we are forced to read it, we see something very modern about him. And so thank you guys for sticking with me until the very end. Special thanks to all the websites that I pulled pictures from and all the companies that put them on the internet for me. And a special thank you to Dr. DiBiase, because I told him I wanted to write about pop culture, and he kind of nodded his head in his very enthusiastic Dr. DiBiase way. He had no idea where I was going to take this. So, thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure.